At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Mixed Doubles Podcast. We're your hosts, Maggie Robinson
and Josh Smythe-McCauley,
with a special guest, Bradley Polkowitz. We are former D1 athletes and colleagues at the NFL and NBA with a passion for all things women's sports. If you're interested in more content, please follow us at Mixed Doubles Pod on Instagram. That's 1D, the Mix and the Double. Share it. And don't forget to rate the show. If you like what you're hearing, throw us a little 5 stars. Goes a long way.
All information here is our own and has no affiliation with our employers whatsoever. Have to get that out the way.
Okay, so to kick us off, welcome back to our interview series. Today's guest is the amazing Tish Carmona. Tish is the Director of Communications for the newest 3v3 women's basketball league, Unrivaled. She graduated from the University of Maryland in 2017 and launched her career as a corporate communications manager for the Washington Commanders. She then made her way to the Big Apple, landing a job with the NBA in strategic comms and earning recognition as a front office sports rising star under 25. With the growth of the WNBA, her responsibilities began to expand, and she became solely focused on the WNBA in May of 2022. Following the conclusion of the Liberty and Ellie's first championship this past season, Tish joined Unrivaled as the Director of Comms and the first in-house comms-specific hire. Thank you so much for coming on, Tish. We are so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And our second guest, as we mentioned earlier, is the awesome Bradley Polkowitz. Bradley is one of our coworkers at the NFL and is a rotational analyst in the international growth team and is too humble to brag about his accomplishments, so I will have the honor of doing it here. He founded the Shannon Wald Sports Management Program at the University of Maryland and met Tish at the Sports Business Society event there. Both Bradley and Tish serve on the board of the Sports Management Program, and they spend their free time mentoring and empowering the next sports business professionals. So Bradley, welcome.
Excited to be on. I can't wait. So I'm excited for this, excited to have Tish on and talk about kind of our UMD connection and then just roll into everything going on with Unrivaled. So tying to our UMD connection, I want to start off just going through how you started your career. Yeah. So can you talk us through kind of your first internships as a student and then how that laid the foundation to kind of your first role out of college?
Yeah, absolutely. So I took a ton of random internships when I was at college. I knew that I wanted to do communications, but I just didn't know what. And so I think one of my first internships was at Factory Athletics, which I was working on volleyball factory. So they prepare kids in high school to play in college. So that was kind of a sports internship, but I didn't really think too much of it because I was basically just there, pushing papers around, not really doing too much. I was like a freshman. I think at the time it was like my freshman summer. So it wasn't anything crazy. But then I went on to take internships with like the division of IT at Maryland. And then I worked for a tech startup called Gatekeeper. Like there were a lot of different random internships that I had taken. And then one of my friends was working in the marketing department of Maryland Athletics. And he said, hey, like they have a media relations department. You should check it out or apply for it. And so I did. And I was working under Anna LeBont, who is now at UConn doing women's basketball there. And she was the head volleyball SID at the time. So I was working under her. So just tying together, I grew up playing volleyball. That was how I kind of got involved there. And once I figured out that you could make that a whole career, I was like, okay, great. Like that's lit. I'm going to do this. So from there, I got, just getting that on my resume at Maryland and working for Maryland Athletics then let me get the internship with the Washington Commanders, which then obviously led to my full-time job. So that was kind of how it all started, but just kind of a little bit of bouncing around before landing in sports.
I want to talk about 3 things before going back. Maggie, impressed that you didn't run out of breath. That was incredible.
Preparing for my on-air career. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I was looking at you. I was like, please don't. Face wasn't even turning red. Like it's flawless. Bradley, to your point, I don't think we talked about, but Bradley does all of the creative for mixed doubles. So all the creative you've seen on Instagram and other places, Bradley does a lot of that. Maggie started to do a lot more vlogging, which is great, but wanted to shout out Bradley there too. And then getting to Tish, we do our due diligence. We try to stalk who we're going to interview. And stalking you, we found your TikTok account, which I love, especially going back now that I'm in the NBA office. It's fun to see a familiar spot on your TikToks. But wanted to talk about that and just kind of ask you, one, a lot of the content that you do on there revolves around career advice for
Mhm.
students, for young professionals trying to get into the space. And you just touched on your experience in college and how that kind of led you to your career now. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on any advice you would have to aspiring young professionals in sports and college students as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first step is just awareness and making sure you're absorbing as much information as you can. I mean, I think stuff like this is great to be able to tune into and just understand what is even out there. I think so much of the barriers for entry for people who want to work in sports is just not knowing that you can just be in finance in sports or, can be a lawyer for, a sport league. It's just that there are opportunities out there and then figuring out how to get there. So, I mean, obviously the tried and true, like keep networking, keep, going to different events, like that kind of stuff is always going to be kind of the standard. But I think now, especially as there is so much at our disposal and, earlier, like even when I was, trying to apply for different internships and jobs, like TikTok wasn't really a thing. Like people weren't able to utilize that to showcase their either, video editing capabilities or their interviewing capabilities. And just there's so much more of an online portfolio that people can build without it feeling like an online portfolio. Like I remember, during some of the courses that we have to take at Maryland, it's like, hey, put up all your work samples and this and that. And that's how people will get to know you. Whereas now it just like feels so natural and it feels a little bit more authentic to who you are. And so being able to just like tap into your interests and then showcasing how your passions will align with whatever you want your career to be. I think that I always advocate for that for, someone who is interested in getting involved in a certain aspect of the business, whether that's analyzing what partnerships, players have with different brands or whatever it may be, then it's like, okay, report on that. Like the information's out there, like start a podcast about it or start, a TikTok about it. Like just the fact that everything is kind of at our fingertips really allows people to just show what they can do more so than ever before. So just taking advantage of that, especially now, is I think the biggest thing. But again, just always tying back to the relationships that you build with other people and not just, people who are who you aspire to be or the careers that you aspire to have, but the people around you, because, I still to this day, like there's people I met when, whether that was at Maryland or at any previous jobs that I continue to have those relationships with. So your peers are really your greatest network too. So just continuing to build and have positive relationships with those around you is so important.
I watched some of your intern series where you would interview your like NBA interns and like share about them, which I loved. Honestly, as someone like a semi-recent college grad, like that is the kind of content that I wish I'd stumbled upon. And I know like you're now providing this for other people. Was there anyone that you looked up to? Anyone you like saw as a mentor when you were getting into this space that you took their advice and ran with it?
Oh my gosh, I'm for sure. I mean, when I was first at the Washington Commanders, my kind of internship coordinator was Alexia Grievous, who's now with the Magic Johnson Foundation. Just has had an incredible career. You all know her as well. I'm seeing for the last, yeah. She's
Gosh, get in
fantastic.
there.
No, I think that's how Bradley and I connected.
That's how
Wow.
me and Josh connected. Josh interned there, so it all kind of just like loops
That's
back
hilarious.
back to networking. It's
Gosh,
Yeah.
shout out
crazy.
Alexia. Shout out Alexia for bringing the squad together.
Truly, no, she was fantastic. I think just seeing someone who's so strong and she was like young too when I was interning there, but the way she carried herself and just kind of not taking anything from anyone and just holding her own, especially when you're around a team full of football players. It was like the most incredible thing. And I just really like love shouting her out because she, continues to just be someone that I look up to in the space. And then outside of that, just oh man, I mean, I could name like so many different people that I look up to because that's what you have to do. You have to
Yeah.
kind of like see who you would want to be and like, obviously like see her be her and all that kind of stuff. But, and obviously just leaning on different role models and mentors that you might have, from time to time. I did network with some people at the NBA before I got there. And so I continue to just like look up to them from that perspective, like Melissa Palarea, who is over in the DEI sector at the NBA, who, sometimes I don't even know if those kinds of people recall the impact that you have on them, where you just have like a 15-minute conversation, but it just stays with you. So, that's another shout just to the people who are asked to talk to, students all the time. It's like it really does make a difference. But yeah, just people like that who are gracious with their time to be able to show that there's a path in this industry for people like me.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the most helpful things that I feel like I've just like talking to people and just trying to like pick brains of like, okay, how did you get here? Like
Mhm.
I want nothing from this conversation in the way of like, can you get me this role? It's really just like information
Right,
exchange of just like
right.
curiosity. And I think that's what got me so far. And so it's affirming to hear that like have such an established career and like you relied on the same kind of tactics and relationship building. So
Yeah, because that's the other thing. Like growing up, I didn't really, I mean, my mom's like a paraeducator, my dad's like a PTA. Like he just like my family's not really in this kind of even business
yeah.
landscape. So I didn't know anyone working in the sports business. Or sports industry. So it was kind of starting from the ground up and then just building connections and networking from there. And obviously the University of Maryland prepared me a lot for that. And they really like hammered home that you need to network, you need to have these different events. And shout out to the Public Relations Student Society of America. They hosted a lot of these kinds of networking events that you could do, brought us to different PR agencies. So that was really helpful too, because I was on the executive board like from my freshman year, like I was a treasurer, second semester. So that already was like building and doing networking with the people who are older. And then as soon as they graduate, then they're a professional. So I can just call back on those relationships. And so, yeah, just something instilled in me for sure. But yeah, that's why I always say this is super important.
Yeah. Bradley, is there anything you want to speak on Maryland related? I feel like this is a great time to just kind of explain your role there and like what you guys and how you met.
Yeah, I think Maryland, like Tish said, does a great job of just hammering home networking. I also became kind of involved executive board with our Sports Business Society at the end of my freshman year. And that's how I got put in contact with Tish. I reached out to her, wanted her to speak on kind of a networking event. And then from there, it just continued to roll over of whenever they had internships, things out, I would recommend her different people. And the relationship just kept growing. And I think that was one of the biggest things I've learned from a lot of those mentors and a lot of those people that I networked with, of just the value of that and the value of staying in touch. Like I met Tish probably 4 or 5 years ago, and to this day we just continue to keep up. If there's anything kind of going on, it's like, check this out. Like I think it'd be great to just send over to you. And I think that's just one of the great things about kind of your alma mater. We all are kind of rallying behind one common goal to help other people kind of in our shoes get that same pathway in.
Go Terps.
Go Terps.
I was about to ask what the thing was. I was like, I know they're turtles.
Go
It's not, I feel like
Terps.
I
We
messed it
got
up.
Roll Terps, they sometimes say, but I don't really like that too much because it's kind of like the Roll Tide off brand a
Yeah,
bit. So
yeah.
I'm just like a Go Terps,
Whatever.
but we love our turtles there.
Oh, man. Shout out UMD.
Tish, looking back a little bit, so you went from the Commanders to the NBA and then to the WNBA. Do you mind explaining your role at the NBA and kind of how that shifted into the WNBA as your
Yeah.
time there progressed?
Absolutely. So when I was hired at the NBA, it was to do strategic communications, and I was solely focused more on the NBA side of it. So, was doing a lot of just like executive messaging or, backup documents, a lot of more behind the scenes internal communications. So that was what I was focused on, was just NBA. But then as soon as Commissioner Kathy Engelbert came in, I just saw an opportunity to really help, because I saw that there was a turning point at that time. Obviously, she was the first commissioner of the WNBA. All the previous leaders of the WNBA had been presidents. So just seeing, they had a brand reset, I think in 2019, and, obviously Kathy joined that year as well. So seeing that kind of evolution, I just wanted to be a part of it. Having grown up playing, sports, as a woman, it was just like, and then being able to work for the longest standing women's professional sport league, and one that was definitely having some kind of upswell. I wanted to be part of that. And so at the NBA, they have a few different, obviously, departments within the communications team. So they have dedicated WNBA communications individuals. And so I was just working with them and making sure that anything that we were kind of providing on the NBA side would be consistent with what the WNBA might need, just knowing that they were going to be, adding more staff and just building out what the WNBA was internally and their kind of external presence as well. So I saw an opportunity to just help. And so I got more involved, and then slowly just was in all these meetings. And actually there was, one meeting at the end of, I guess, the 2021 WNBA season, maybe, where, Commissioner Engelbert had just said, if anyone has any other ideas, email me, feel free to email me about whatever you think we should do. And I'm like, I will email you. Like, I'm always one of those people that, like, if someone opens it up, like, take advantage of it. Like, she offered, what's the worst that she gonna do? Ignore it, whatever. Like, so I emailed, said, hey, like, have some ideas, would love to work more with you all. I'm doing this right now. And so we actually set up time and we chatted, and she was telling me that they would have some opportunities coming up. And so from there, it's just like following up, but, just taking that initiative to kind of be like, I want more, I want to work more with the WNBA. I want to, like, grow my career too, because when I that transition allowed me to work more on the marketing side. I was, a marketing manager, just having come from communications my whole time. And that was even something I asked the commissioner during our meeting was, if I want to change my career, if I want to go into a different aspect of the business, do you think I should go back to school? And she's like, just learn here, like, do it here. We got you. And so that was, that was all I needed to hear. And so she obviously saved me a lot of money in doing so and allowed me to just like grow my career a little bit more. And that honestly is what helped lead me here too. And a lot of my job is kind of combining everything that I've learned to date, even dating back to the Commanders too. So it's kind of just been the culmination of like all of my jobs put together.
I have so much respect for you just taking that initiative and like if they open the floor up, like genuinely, that's one of my favorite things to say is like the worst they say is no. And like you're right back where you started. Like, okay, that is so impressive though that you were just like, yes, absolutely. I want to go out. I think it's great advice too for like anyone, but especially for like young like graduates or people like getting started in their career. If the opportunity's there, just take advantage of it. Like,
Yeah.
because it was probably you and what, like a handful of other people that actually followed through.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how many people would have emailed her coming out of that.
Yeah, and it's so bold, and I respect that.
That is one thing I think like from a young age I've kind of well, I used to be a very shy kid, but then one day I was just like I'm sick of being shy, like I want to be outgoing, and so I just kind of flipped the switch and I just never shut up since then. But I've been like really out like I see everyone as peers, as people, like you're a person first before you're a title. And so to me, and and it helps. I mean, Commissioner Engelbert is very down to earth. She is so easygoing and so approachable. So it's that definitely helped. I don't know if I would have done the same for like Adam Silver, honestly, just because he's so scarier. But otherwise, like I don't know, maybe. Well, if I can go back in time and he said I could email, yeah, whatever.
Hilarious. Maggie, I told you the other day I was in the cafeteria at the NBA office and I saw Kathy Engelbert for the first time and I was fangirling a little bit. I didn't say anything, so next time I should take Tish's initiative and just be like,
You
hi.
should. You have to. No, she really, I mean, she does love it. And even when, I had friends who were working at Deloitte who reached out to me once she was hired, obviously from Deloitte to come to the WNBA. And they were like, you need to talk to her. She's fantastic. Like, really so happy for you. Like, truly go up to her. Like, she's great. And so that, that always was really nice. And that, obviously speaks volumes to just her as an individual too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like who you want heading your organization.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is someone who is both approachable and a great leader. So it's always nice to hear that these leagues are being led by good people in charge, I know you said also all these roles kind of built upon each other and you use your relationships that you had with WNBA players to work with players at Unrivaled. How did the previous relationships kind of like translate through? How does that help you in your current role at a different league?
Absolutely. So when I was at the W doing the marketing role, I was leading our player marketing agreement program. So we signed a certain number of players during each year to then work with them primarily during the off season, but just around a variety of initiatives. So whether that's bringing them to NBA All-Star or just doing different shoots with them, putting them in different marketing opportunities. I mean, still one of my favorite things that I worked on while I was doing this program was a Google commercial that was like the Google Lens, where it like was their tunnel walks. And I could probably like play the whole commercial back in my head. I've watched it so many times, but it was just so cool that we had like 7 of the 10 players that I was working with at the time as part of this, and just seeing everything that went into this, like, a shoot of that magnitude. But in that shoot was, Dearica Hamby, Nafisa Collier, I think Arike Gumbawale was in it. So there were a handful of players that were part of this, Kalia Copper, that, part of that program. And over the couple of years that I was doing the program, just got to know them, got to work with them. And it's a little bit easier, asking them for things that are way more fun than I think, maybe a media interview might be, that everyone has their own, like, kind of sticking points, but it definitely helped because now, like, when I, want to go up to them, or even just like them knowing who I am or seeing me and knowing me as a person, and just seeing everything that I've done up to this point, just that familiarity and knowing that, like, there's a little level of trust and just like understanding that I know them as a person. And, that's what's been really, really helpful on site here.
Yeah, I think that's so important when you're working with players is like the level of trust, especially when they're working with the media, because it's like the wild, wild west on the internet. Like you never know who's going to shove a phone in your face and what they're going to say and how you're going to look and who's going to take it the wrong way.
Right.
So like seeing you at both places, being like, oh, I know her, I trust her. We have this like pre-standing relationship, again, as people, not even as like coworkers or colleagues.
Exactly.
So important.
Absolutely.
I'll hop in now that we're kind of getting into Unrivaled. Want to talk more about what your role looks like now. So, as a director of communications, if you could explain to me, as somebody who has no idea what that looks like, what that is. And then also, I think like the fun part about this is that this is brand new. Like, this is a brand new league. So, it's essentially, I would have the idea of this like startup culture, but would love to hear it from you what that experience has been like helping a league grow from the ground up and also
Yeah.
looks like.
It's been really exciting. It's very, different. Obviously, just having come from like two very established organizations and having a lot of questions even before I joined of, how's it going to work? Like, what is their strategy around X, Y, and Z? Or like, do they have this set up? And I think that was the biggest thing that I was so grateful for is like, in my first all staff meeting, everyone, I was like, oh, they hired the exact right people to do this job. Like, this is going to be fine. We're great. And I am just I can't speak more more highly for everyone who is working here and just making Unrivaled possible. But my job, I boil it down to just making people talk to each other. Honestly, on a day-to-day it looks a little bit different, but just if media have interview requests, obviously linking them up with players. I think what's a little bit unique is that I'm managing all 6 clubs, all 36 players, all 6 head coaches, the executives. There's a lot of different like layered partnership. If there's a partnership going out, the releases around that, like community events, things that I mean, it's truly like the NBA has like 50 communications people, and it's like my job is 50 people in one. Luckily, it's not as extensive. We're not international, we're not X, Y, and Z, but it's still a lot for a couple of people. I have a communications assistant. I just brought someone down also to help out as well through the rest of the season. So just being able to like have people on phones or like setting things up at the same time, getting people on Zooms here, because I think that's what's been a little bit harder is that obviously there's no WNBA team down here in Miami, or Florida for that matter. And they're, everyone else who is like covering either women's basketball, either it would be college or they already have their assignments. So we were coming at it from a different perspective where we know there weren't going to be like a lot of on-site media from day to day, but a lot of it would have to be remote, Zoom, phone, whatever. So just being able to like be in a million places at once just via, those phone calls is that was why, having to bring on a couple more people here is super helpful. But yeah, like, our game days kind of run the same as they would in any other league. Obviously you have some shoot arounds and, have some media asking questions at the end of those. And then you get to the games, you're passing out stats, you're, holding the post-game press conferences and make sure everything goes well, sending out game notes before the games and recaps after, recording the Zooms, like just like little nitty gritty when it like that, all of that is like, and we just had a meeting today where it's like, no one in this company can just be someone who ideates and expects everyone else to execute. Like, no matter what your title is here, you're executing and you're doing the work. Like, the days are definitely longer than they were when I was at the league office, just by nature of like not having as many staff. We're about like 20 to 25 full-time staffers and then a lot of like contractors that are doing work throughout the season. But when it comes down to it, it's like it'll just be kind of me year round moving forward rather than just having like my, go-to people, which again will be a little bit easier during the off season, but it is a lot. Or, whether it's like submitting for awards for the players or the league or something like that. We work with our PR firm Burke Communications, who had been working with the league since April or May of last year. And so just like being able to like lean on them has also been helpful. And there are a lot of like the bigger picture stuff, but everything else pretty much day to day is like here on the ground in meetings, answering emails. It's just like never stops, but it's great. Like I couldn't ask for a better opportunity. And obviously just working with the best women's professional basketball players in the world is like, it's never lost on me, and just how gracious they are and how amazing they are with their time. I mean, like just asking them to do interviews, like it's hard. Like it's not something that they're obligated to do. It's like we would like for them to do it. So you're always in a position where you're hoping that they will, work with you on it. But, again, that just goes back to the trust and like their, respect, understanding that it's like we're all here to do a job and they're here to grow the league as well. And a huge part of that is media and making sure that people know what's going on here and that they, know the players more. So that visibility is really important. So, it's just tying it all together.
I love that. Was there kind of going back to your relationship with Nafisa, was there any pitch involved from her directly? Was the like, Tish, got this league cooking up.
Oh, I would
We
have loved
need you
that.
here. It's like, come on, your number one draft pick.
It's funny. I mean, I don't even know if she would have known that I would have like wanted to leave the league office. Hopefully, if she did know that, she would have called me. But I did. So when I was interviewing, so I actually through the front office Sports Rising 25, I was on it in 2018, and Kirby Porter, who's our chief brand officer, was on it in 2019. And so I think I was at her ceremony for that. And so I just followed like everyone who was in that class, I think. And we tried to stay in touch here and there, but I knew of her and followed her career. But then I saw she started posting about Unrivaled. I was like, okay, wait a minute. And like obviously being at the WNBA, like you're aware of what's going on. And so I was like, let me reach out to her. Let me just see what's good. And so I reached out to her and I just started networking from there. And when I was telling her about my experiences, she was like, oh, we sound like we need you. Like, so that was like kind of how that went. But then, went through the formal interview process with her. And then obviously, interviewed with Alex Bazell, the president of Unrivaled, and Mickey Lawler, who's the commissioner of Unrivaled. So went through the formal process for real. But I did text Fee and I was like, hey, just so you know, like, because I had worked with her for 2 years in a row too. And she was actually one of the players that I felt like we were the most similar, or just like had a great relationship. So I just let her know kind of as like a courtesy. I was like, just wanted to make you aware so you weren't like, oh, what is she doing here? And it's like, you could either shut this down or you could pass this through, like up to you, just letting you know, like I'm applying. And so she's like, oh, let me tell Alex right now. And I was like, okay, great. Like that's awesome. So, that was definitely helpful. I had still had gone through a lot of the initial screening, so don't want to give her too much credit, but I was very grateful that she did pass the name along and then met with Alex after that.
No, that's awesome. Was there any reunion of sorts, just having your background at the W and any other people that, you come to Unrivaled and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so happy to be working with you again.
Yeah, actually, so I mean, it was mainly with like the people who have been doing the content here, because a lot of like our shooters are people that also like shoot for the WNBA, and because it's like the opposite season, we have that opportunity to work with them. But yeah, there was a handful of people, but that's also been something that's been interesting for me, because there wasn't a lot of people from like the league office who then came to do this, at least from like a business perspective. I even remember like when my announcement of like me joining Unrivaled was like on, SBJ, the whatever transactions, and someone who worked for Indiana at the time, like their boss was like, hey, do you know this person who like left the league office to go join Unrivaled? Like it kind of felt like a turning point in some ways, that like because I think I was the first person who like was known to have left the league office to come to Unrivaled. And like I think there were a lot of questions around like what Unrivaled was going to be at the time, and so just giving it like, I don't know, not like legitimacy, but just like a little bit of a, oh hey, they're hiring like people who have done this before, like they're really doing their due diligence. Hopefully it's been working out so far. But yeah, like I think that a lot of the people that I've gotten to work with have a unique perspective and understanding of it. But like, like obviously for Alex, like knowing the pain points and having Fee and Stewie as co-founders is really important and really guides a lot of what we do here. Obviously Mickey Lawler had been, with in tennis for years, so just understanding what it's like to be, forging ahead for women's professional athletes. And then Claire Duelius, who is our general manager and executive vice president, had just come from the Minnesota Lynx. So, there was some crossover there as well. And then just people who have just kind of worked around the industry for a while. So yeah, it's been the best blend of everyone. And it takes a true like village to get this thing going off the ground. And it's been incredible.
Yeah, now that you kind of have half a season under your belt and that change isn't kind of as unheard of, what have been some of those highlights throughout the season? I know Fee obviously took her crown last week, winning her own 1v1 title, but what else has been kind of your favorite parts of this first season?
Oh my gosh. It's been so cool. I think really a lot of it's like in the day to day, or like the conversations you have behind the scenes, just everyone being here at one time. Like I know a lot of people like equate it to like a summer camp or an all-star, like an extended all-star, but like it's really not lost on me like how competitive these players are and how much they want to succeed and want to win and are working. And it's just like seeing their work ethic and like the players that are just like putting in extra time, or just being around their energy. And actually I will say, because I just had a conversation with her the other day, but like it's been an absolute honor working with Coach Weatherspoon. Any conversation you have with her, you're gonna leave there just like, wow, like just everything, her perspective. I coming into this, I was so thrilled to be able to work with her, just having a lot of respect and admiration for her. So then now being able to like chat with her and just, having kind of like life lessons, just in passing. It's like, I don't know, it's just beyond what you would ever imagine. And obviously having like Lisa Leslie, who's another legend in the game, who's like calling our games and they're helping out players like, Angel or, whoever else, Aaliyah Boston, like in her spare time as she's just there. Like that kind of stuff is really, really cool. And just seeing how genuine the players are and how authentically they really do like everything that we have going here. And, they rave about the facilities and the amenities and everything else. Like it's really cool just seeing their, obviously one, their competitive nature, two, just like their appreciation for everything that we have here and just everything coming to life. And obviously those relationships you build from the day to day.
Yeah. I mean, it's been an awesome season. I know me, Josh, and Maggie all went kind of the first three weeks, I believe it was, to Blue Haven and just watch the games there. I was trying to find you in the background. Like, I know that you would always be walking by. I was like, where's Tish? Like, I'm trying to see her.
Yes. Oh,
But unfortunately we didn't. But I guess as we kind of round this out, getting to time, I have kind of two last questions. One, talking about this season, who is kind of your pick to win it all? As we're getting to the end. And then second, if you could have anyone kind of jump in, maybe that's either currently a veteran, kind of not in the league, or, the next coming. I know we have a lot of good talent down the pipeline with Juju, with Paige, with
yes.
others. Who would be your ideal person to round it out?
Oh my God, it's so hard. I can only pick one person.
Maybe a Terp. Maybe you could have Cheyenne Sellers. I don't know.
That'd be sick. I mean, yeah, big fan. Man, that's hard. Just one player.
Just one. Fine. We'll do three. We'll do three.
Okay, okay,
Is
okay.
that good? Or how about you pick your
Team at
starting?
least.
Yeah, your starting three. Just do who would be the three?
Okay, okay. I mean,
Big three on the
I
court.
mean, Maya Moore is like a legend. I think that she would excel in this format. I think she would tear up the one-on-one. But I think, I got to give it to like I'm really excited about the future too. With, Juju coming in. I think that she also will excel in this format and oh man, like okay, now just going back down to one. I don't know. I don't know. I might just let me just keep it at a form in a
Keep it at two.
upcoming so that we can because then I'm gonna get into all the
Stay
nitty.
tuned.
But
Stay tuned for season two. That's what it is.
yep, absolutely. Was there a first part of that question
And the
too?
first part was who's winning the season? Is Fee taking the
Right, right, right.
crown?
I should have
Is,
just ignored that one.
Stewie
No.
gonna rally her troops? Like, what's it gonna be?
I mean, it's hard right now. Obviously, the Lunar Owls are undefeated still, have the one-on-one champion in Fee. Their team chemistry is great, obviously, but we'll see. Obviously, the Laces just, even through injuries, they're still a really strong team. They just got the win the other night with Nigel Laney
Laney
Hamilton,
Hamilton.
champion and all-star. It's like, okay, someone goes down and then you just go off and sign a W champion. No big deal.
No
So
biggie.
that was really cool. And I've worked with Benija too in the past, so that was exciting. We'll see. I think that those, I don't know. You can't count anyone out, but I think it's going to be the target is definitely on the Lunar Owls' back right now, is what I will say.
I think Josh just had to do what was this? A quick
It was a rogue
train?
page. I completely forgot. Bradley reminded me when we went to Blue Haven, I won this shirt.
Oh my
So that's a
gosh.
Oh
wrap.
wait, stand up, show the camera.
No, you can see
There
it.
you
I'm glad
go.
you can see it, right?
Josh
I
won
love
the
it.
raffle. Josh has the best luck.
That's incredible.
It was
Yes, love
the
our
same
merch. God,
day.
our merch. I mean, that's what's been so cool too, to see how many people are like eating it up, like from the merch to like obviously just filling the arena. Like every game has been sold out. Like it just is like so incredible to see the support and the passion. Yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
Me and Rachel were trying to figure out how to get down for a game. We're like, we need to go to a game and see Tish and everyone in action. It just didn't work out the timing. So we're
Next
hoping
year,
next year.
plan
Next year, it's
ahead. 'Cause,
fingers
yeah, we'll
crossed.
be back.
Yes.
On that
Can't wait.
note, is there anywhere specific that you see the league going that you have like a vision for what do you think it can grow into?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think definitely like there's so much that they have kind of in the pipeline that they want to be working on. I think, our president Alex Bazell has said in the past that we might want to do like a little bit of a tour model where we'll still have a home base in Miami, but travel to a few different cities. So like that, just going back to what he said and going maybe to like some like non-W markets. Obviously the WNBA is expanding as well. So just seeing what opportunities are out there and where the interest is to, showcase the game to different people because Alex also said this is like as soon as people see the game in person, like they're hooked. Like if you go to a game like as a kid, like you're a fan for life. Like it just that kind of stuff is really you can't replicate it. So just being able to be in front of more people, I think is going to be huge for the future of the league for sure.
If
Yeah.
we have any input, I know Maggie wants to go to Nashville. Josh wants to go to Austin. I'm fine if you just come back home to New York. for the game here, I'd be happy. I'd be
Right?
happy.
I know. Yeah, those are definitely two cities that like even as like, WNBA talks come up, like just the revitalization or not even revitalization, but just like how much they're booming and the opportunities that are there and other companies moving there. That's always a huge, driver for whether or not a team might, survive or thrive in that environment. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Look, the Moody Center is ready for you in Austin. So if you guys decide to make that decision, we're ready. We're ready. I say we as if I live there still.
Josh has all authority.
You'll be there though.
Yeah. We'll make it happen. But no, seriously, Tish, thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and we're really happy that we could finally get you on and just talk about Unrivaled and get to continue to see how this league grows and just have fun watching it. I think that's been the best part, as you've kind of described it. But we have genuinely been fans of Unrivaled and just getting to see the action. Like, it has been fun. It has been a great time. So thank you for playing a piece in that. And thank you for joining us on this podcast and blessing us with your knowledge and your
Thank you for
experience.
having me. It was a great combo. You guys are great. I really appreciate you having me on. And it's always fun to talk about what we got going on here. So anytime.